The fluorescent lights flickered above, casting a harsh glow over the bustling hospital floor. The rhythmic beeping of machines and the distant chatter of nurses and doctors created a symphony that was both familiar and comforting to Maya, a dedicated nurse whose life revolved around the care of others. Each day bled into the next, filled with long shifts that left her exhausted yet fulfilled as she navigated the world of medicine with unwavering determination. This night, like countless others before it, found her tending to patients with the same warmth and compassion that had earned her the respect of her colleagues and the gratitude of those she cared for. Before you skip, just remember, channels like this only survive if you hit subscribe. Otherwise, stories like this one just disappear. As Maya moved through the crowded emergency room, her dark uniform contrasted sharply against the sterile white walls. She greeted each patient with a smile, her eyes reflecting the kindness she poured into her work. However, despite the warmth she exuded, a part of her felt like a ghost drifting through the corridors, unnoticed and unremarked upon. Her life had become a routine, a cycle of caring for others while her own dreams lay dormant. She longed for something more, something that would ignite her spirit and pull her from the shadows of her mundane existence. That night, the hospital buzzed with an unusual energy. The air was thick with tension as paramedics rushed in with sirens blaring, wheeling in patients who bore the marks of violence and chaos. Maya's heart raced as she prepared for the onslaught of cases, her instincts kicking in. She had seen many things in her years at the hospital, but tonight felt different. There was an edge to the atmosphere, a sense that something extraordinary was about to unfold. Just as she was about to assist a doctor with a patient, the doors swung open, and in walked a figure that seemed to command the very space around him. The man was strikingly handsome, with sharp features and a presence that was both imposing and magnetic. He wore a tailored suit that hinted at power and wealth, but it was his eyes, dark and intense, that captivated Maya. They held secrets, shadows of a life lived on the edge, and a vulnerability that seemed out of place in his formidable exterior. He was flanked by two boys, identical twins who were clearly injured but remarkably resilient. Their faces were pale, but their eyes sparkled with a mixture of mischief and curiosity. They looked around the emergency room as if it were a thrilling adventure rather than a place of pain. Maya's heart softened at the sight of them, and she instinctively stepped forward, ready to offer her assistance. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions swirling within her. The man turned his gaze towards her, and for a moment the world around them faded away. "They need immediate attention," he replied, his voice low and commanding. "One of them is hurt pretty badly." Maya nodded, her professional demeanor taking over as she assessed the situation. "This way, please." She guided them through the chaos, her heart racing as she led the boys to an examination room. The man followed closely behind, his presence almost overwhelming. She could feel the heat radiating off him, a stark contrast to the cold sterility of the hospital. As she tended to the twins, she couldn't help but steal glances at their father. He was a paradox, exuding an aura of danger while simultaneously being fiercely protective of his sons. His demeanor was cold and detached, but there was a flicker of something deeper in his gaze, a fierce love that transcended the chaos surrounding them. Maya's pulse quickened as she caught his eye, and she felt a magnetic pull towards him, a connection that left her breathless. The minutes stretched into what felt like hours as she treated the boys' wounds. The twins, despite their injuries, joked and laughed, their spirits unbroken. They were charming and full of life, and Maya found herself smiling at their antics, momentarily forgetting the weight of the world outside the hospital walls. It was a refreshing distraction, and she felt a sense of warmth in their presence that she had not experienced in a long time. "Are you a superhero?" one of the twins asked, his eyes wide with admiration as she bandaged his arm. Maya chuckled, shaking her head. No, I'm just a nurse, but I'm glad to help you. The other twin piped up, You're the best nurse ever! His compliment sent a rush of warmth through her, igniting something deep within her heart. She realized how much she craved validation, especially in a world where she often felt invisible. As she finished up, she glanced back at their father, who stood by the door, his expression unreadable. There was a storm brewing behind his eyes, a tension that hinted at a life filled with shadows and secrets. "Thank you," he said, his voice softer than before, revealing a glimpse of vulnerability that intrigued Maya. "Of course," she replied, meeting his gaze with a mix of curiosity and caution. "I just did my job." But even as she spoke, she felt an undeniable connection forming between them, a tension that crackled in the air like electricity. She was acutely aware of the danger that surrounded him, the world he inhabited filled with peril and intrigue. Yet, despite that awareness, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to him, a story waiting to be told. As the twins settled into recovery, Maya found herself drawn to their father even more. He would often linger around the hospital, watching over his sons with a fierce protectiveness that spoke volumes about his character. Each time their eyes met, she felt an unspoken understanding pass between them, a bond that transcended their vastly different worlds. But just as she began to entertain the idea of getting to know him further, she overheard a conversation that sent chills down her spine. In a hushed tone, two doctors spoke in the corridor, their words laced with fear and intrigue. "Did you see who brought those boys in? That's Alessandro Russo, the Mafia boss," one of them whispered. Maya's heart dropped as she processed the implications. The powerful man she had been drawn to was not just a father, he was a figure entrenched in a world filled with danger and criminality. She felt a mix of fear and intrigue surge within her. How could someone so captivating be involved in such darkness? And why did the thought of it send a thrill through her? But she shook her head, pushing the thoughts aside. This was not her world. She was a nurse, dedicated to her patients and her career. She couldn't afford to get entangled with someone like him, no matter how deep the pull of attraction. And yet, the more she resisted, the stronger the attraction became. The night wore on, and Maya's shift eventually came to an end. As she gathered her belongings, she felt a sense of longing as she glanced back at the room where the twins were recovering. They had brought an unexpected light into her life, and she felt a pang of sadness at the thought of leaving them behind. Just as she was about to step out, she turned to see Alessandro standing by the doorway, his imposing figure silhouetted against the bright lights of the hospital. He looked at her with a mixture of gratitude and something deeper, something that made her heart race. "Thank you for taking care of them," he said, his voice low and sincere. "You have a gift." Maya swallowed hard, an unfamiliar warmth creeping up her cheeks. "It's my job," she replied, trying to sound casual despite the fluttering in her stomach. "No, it's more than that," he insisted, stepping closer. "You've given them hope when they needed it most." His gaze locked onto hers, and for a moment, the world around them faded away. She could see the weight of his struggles reflected in his eyes, the burden of being a father in a dangerous world. It was a vulnerability that drew her in, igniting a spark of empathy within her. Maybe I could help you too," she blurted out before she could think. The words hung in the air, shocking her. What did that even mean? She was crossing a line, but the thought of doing something more than her duties for him sent a thrill through her. He regarded her with a mix of surprise and something else, curiosity perhaps. "I appreciate that," he said, his tone shifting slightly. "But my world is dangerous. I don't want to pull you into it." "Danger is relative," she replied, her heart pounding as she felt the weight of his words. "We all face our battles." He studied her for a moment, and she could see the internal struggle written on his face. "You have no idea what you're saying," he finally said, a hint of warning lacing his voice. But Maya could feel the connection between them, a magnetic force pulling her closer. "Maybe I want to understand," she said softly, feeling a surge of courage. "Maybe I want to know you." He opened his mouth to respond, but before he could say anything, the sound of laughter erupted from the examination room. The twins were joking with the nurses, their spirits unbroken despite the circumstances. Maya turned her attention back to them, her heart swelling at the sight. "See, they're already feeling better," she said, trying to diffuse the tension between her and Alessandro. He followed her gaze, and for a fleeting moment, a smile ghosted across his lips. "They're lucky to have you," he said, his voice softer now. "You're the light in their darkness." Maya felt a warmth spread through her at his words, a sense of validation that she had longed for. Perhaps she could be more than just a nurse in this moment. Perhaps she could step into a role that would connect her to something greater, a family, a purpose, a love that transcended the ordinary. But as she looked into Alessandro's eyes, she felt the weight of his world pressing against her. She was a mere nurse, and he was a mafia boss, a man shrouded in shadows. But maybe, just maybe, she could bridge that divide. "But I had no idea how deeply I would become entangled in their world," she thought, feeling the pull of fate drawing her closer to a destiny she had never anticipated. As she walked away from him, her heart raced with anticipation and uncertainty. She had stumbled into a life that could change everything, a life filled with love, danger, and the promise of connection. Little did she know, this was only the beginning of a journey that would forever alter the course of her existence. Before you skip, just remember, channels like this only survive if you hit subscribe. Otherwise, stories like this one just disappear. As the fluorescent lights of the hospital flickered above her, Naya took a deep breath, letting the mundane routine of her life wash over her. Each day blended into the next, filled with the soft beeping of machines, the murmur of patients, and the constant hum of the busy city outside. Her life as a dedicated nurse was rewarding, yet at times it felt like she was trapped in a never-ending cycle of care and responsibility. She loved her job, loved the way she could make a difference in someone's life, but there was an emptiness that lingered in the back of her mind, a yearning for something more. Her shifts were long and exhausting, but Naya found solace in the small victories, the grateful smiles of patients, the warmth of their hands as they squeezed hers in gratitude, and the little moments of laughter shared with her colleagues. Yet, despite her vibrant spirit, there was a deeper longing that gnawed at her heart, a desire for connection beyond the sterile walls of the hospital. As the night shift progressed, she found herself reflecting on the encounter with Alessandro, the mafia boss. The way he had looked at her, the intensity of those dark eyes, sent shivers down her spine. It was a reminder of how unpredictable life could be. Just when she thought she had everything figured out, an unexpected twist turned her world upside down. Naya's thoughts were interrupted by a soft knock on the door. It was Dr. Patel, her supervisor, with a stack of patient files in hand. "Hey Naya, can you help me with these?" he asked, his voice warm and encouraging. "Of course, Dr. Patel," she replied, her smile genuine as she took the files from him. They moved to one of the small break rooms, the air thick with the aroma of coffee and the faint scent of antiseptic. As they sorted through the files, Naya's mind drifted back to the twins. Their laughter echoed in her memory, a sound so pure and innocent amidst the chaos of their world. She recalled the way they had looked up at her with wide, trusting eyes, as if she were their lifeline. It was a connection that transcended their circumstances, a bond forged in vulnerability and compassion. "Are you okay? You seem a bit distracted," Dr. Patel observed, his gaze piercing through her thoughts. "I'm fine, just thinking about the twins," Naya admitted, feeling a warmth spread through her chest at the mere mention of them. "They're so resilient, you know? It's inspiring." Dr. Patel nodded, his expression softening. They're lucky to have you looking after them. Not every nurse would take the time to connect like that." Naya shrugged, her cheeks flushing slightly. "It's hard not to get attached. They've been through so much." "Just be careful," he cautioned, his tone serious. "Involving yourself too deeply in their lives, especially with their father's background, could lead to complications." Naya nodded, but a part of her couldn't shake the feeling that she was destined to be part of their story. The pull she felt towards Alessandro was undeniable, and the twins were an extension of that connection. As she finished sorting the files, she resolved to keep her guard up, not allowing her emotions to cloud her judgment. But how could she remain detached when the heart wanted what it wanted? That night, Naya found herself restless. After her shift, she decided to take a walk through the city to clear her head. The streets were alive with energy, the neon lights flashing against the dark sky, creating a vibrant tapestry that contrasted sharply with the stark reality of her life. As she strolled, her mind wandered back to Alessandro and the weight of his world. In a dimly lit alley, she paused, leaning against the cool brick wall as she recollected their last interaction. The way he had held his sons, his fierce protectiveness, and the vulnerability that flickered beneath his stoic facade haunted her thoughts. It was an enigma that intrigued her, drawing her closer to him even as the dangers of his lifestyle loomed large. Suddenly, she heard laughter echoing from the nearby park. Intrigued, she moved closer, peering through the shadows. In the distance, she spotted the twins, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of a street lamp. They were playing tag, their giggles ringing out like music, and for a moment, Naya felt a sense of warmth wash over her. Just then, she noticed Alessandro standing off to the side, his imposing figure a stark contrast to the carefree joy of his children. He watched them with a protective gaze, but there was something else in his eyes, a flicker of longing, a hint of sadness that tugged at her heart. Naya took a step closer, her heart racing as she approached him. "They look happy," she observed softly, not wanting to break the spell of the moment. Alessandro turned to her, surprise flickering across his features. "They are," he replied, his voice low and gravelly, sending a shiver down her spine. "They deserve moments like this." She could see the weight of his responsibilities etched in the lines of his face, the burden of his life pressing down on him. "You're doing a good job," she said, her sincerity evident in her tone. "They're lucky to have you." He studied her for a moment, his expression inscrutable. "I'm not sure luck has anything to do with it," he replied, a hint of bitterness lacing his words. "But I do what I can." Their eyes locked, and in that instant, Naya felt a powerful connection, a shared understanding of sacrifice and love. "You're a good father, Alessandro. It's clear they adore you," she said, her heart pounding in her chest. He shifted slightly, the tension between them palpable. "A father who doesn't want them to follow in my footsteps," he confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm trying to give them a life away from this." Naya's heart ached at his admission. "You can still change that," she encouraged softly, stepping closer. "They need you to be there for them, not just physically, but emotionally." Alessandro looked away, his gaze drifting back to the twins. "It's not that simple," he replied, his voice thick with emotion. "There are things they don't understand, things I can't protect them from." In that moment, Nia reached out, placing a gentle hand on his arm. The warmth of her touch sent electricity coursing through him, a reminder of the humanity he was desperately trying to hold on to. "You're not alone in this, Alessandro. You don't have to shoulder the burden by yourself," she said softly, her eyes filled with empathy. He turned to face her, his expression shifting. "And what about you, Nia? You're just a nurse. You should stay away from this life." "But I'm already here," she countered, her tone firm yet gentle. "I care about your sons, and I care about you. I can't just walk away." A flicker of something, hope, perhaps, crossed his face. "You're brave," he said, his voice low and intense. "Most would run." "I'm not most people," she replied, meeting his gaze with unwavering determination. This time, the air between them crackled with unspoken tension, a blend of danger and undeniable attraction. Nia could feel her heart racing, a rush of adrenaline coursing through her veins. As the twins continued to play, she could sense Alessandro's internal struggle. He was a man trapped between two worlds, the one he had built and the one he desperately wanted to escape. "Promise me you'll be careful," he said suddenly. "I can't afford to lose anyone else." Nia's heart tightened at his words. "I promise," she assured him, her voice steady. "But you have to promise me something too. You'll let me help. You don't have to face this alone." For a moment, Alessandro simply stared at her, the weight of his world heavy in his gaze. "I don't know how," he admitted, vulnerability cracking through his tough exterior. "Then let me show you," Nia replied softly, her heart swelling with determination. As they stood together, the sound of laughter surrounding them, Nia felt the threads of fate weaving their lives together. The twins, with their innocence and joy, were the bridge that connected them, and she knew deep down that this was only the beginning of something extraordinary. The days turned into weeks, and Nia found herself increasingly immersed in the twins' lives. Their rehabilitation sessions became a routine, a sacred time where laughter and healing intertwined. Each smile they shared, each small victory, reinforced Nia's commitment to them. The twins, Luca and Matteo, were a handful, their energy infectious. They would race through the hospital corridors, their laughter echoing off the walls, bringing a sense of joy to the otherwise sterile environment. Nia loved every moment, her heart swelling with affection as she watched them grow stronger each day. Yet, with each passing moment spent with them, her bond with Alessandro deepened. He was still a man shrouded in mystery, his life a labyrinth of secrets, but Nia was determined to navigate it with him. During their late-night conversations, they would share fragments of their lives, his childhood memories, her dreams of becoming a nurse practitioner, bonding over their shared experiences and the burdens they carried. But the darkness of Alessandro's world lingered in the background, a constant reminder that danger was never far away. Nia had noticed the way Alessandro's demeanor shifted when he received phone calls, the tension in his shoulders, the way his eyes darkened with worry. It was a stark contrast to the man she saw when he was with his sons, a side of him that sparked hope and warmth. One evening, as she was leaving the hospital, Nia found herself in the parking lot, the city lights twinkling like stars above her. She felt a sudden chill in the air, an instinctual sense that something was off. Her heart raced as she glanced around, her instincts on high alert. Just then, a car pulled up beside her, and she recognized it immediately, Alessandro's sleek black sedan. He stepped out, his expression serious, the weight of the world etched on his face. "Nia," he called, urgency in his voice. "What's wrong?" she asked, concern flooding through her. "I need your help," he replied, his eyes intense. "There's something going on, and I can't risk you getting caught up in it." The gravity of his words sent a shiver down her spine. "What do you mean?" He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "There's a rival gang looking to exploit my weaknesses. I need to keep you and the boys safe." Nia's heart raced, the reality of his world crashing down around her. "What can I do?" He hesitated, the vulnerability in his eyes piercing through her. "Just stay close to me. Don't go anywhere alone. It's not just about you anymore." In that moment, Nia realized the depth of their connection. This was no longer just about her being a nurse. She was entwined in his life, in a world fraught with danger. "I won't let fear dictate my choices," she replied, her voice steady. "I want to be here for you and the boys. I'll stand by you." Alessandro's gaze softened, gratitude flickering in his eyes. "You're braver than I ever imagined," he admitted. "But promise me, if it gets too dangerous, you'll walk away." "I promise nothing," she said defiantly, a fierce determination burning in her chest. "I'm not going anywhere." As they stood together, the world around them faded into the background. In that moment, Naya understood that she was no longer just a nurse. She had become a part of their family, a family forged in love, resilience, and an unbreakable bond. But as the shadows of Alessandro's world loomed closer, Naya knew they were about to face challenges that would test their connection in ways they never anticipated. The journey ahead would be fraught with danger, but together they would navigate the complexities of love, loyalty, and the fight for a future where they could truly be a family. Naya stood at the entrance of the rehabilitation center, her heart racing at the thought of seeing the twins again. It had been a few days since their last visit, and she felt an unexpected pang of longing to be near them. Their laughter, their innocent banter, it had a way of wrapping around her heart, making her feel like she belonged to something larger than herself. She had never expected to find such joy in a world that was so foreign to her. Yet here she was, ready to face the chaos of Alessandro's life. As she stepped inside, the familiar sights and sounds enveloped her. Colorful murals adorned the walls, depicting scenes of children playing and dreaming. It was a stark contrast to the world outside, a world filled with danger and shadows. Yet here, in this sanctuary, hope thrived. The twins were already in the therapy room, and as she walked in, her heart swelled at the sight of them. Luca and Marco were engaged in their exercises, their faces lit with determination. Naya felt a smile break across her face. They had come so far in their recovery. "Hey, you two," she called out, her voice carrying warmth and affection. Luca turned first, his eyes brightening with recognition. "Naya, look, I can almost walk without crutches now," he exclaimed, his pride evident as he took a few unsteady steps toward her. "Naya," Marco echoed, abandoning his own exercises to rush over. He threw his arms around her waist, and she knelt down to envelop him in a hug. The warmth of his little body against her was a balm to her soul, erasing the worries that had been gnawing at her since she had last seen them. "You're getting stronger every day, Marco," she said, pulling back to look at him. "I'm so proud of you both." The twins beamed at her praise, their confidence visibly boosted. They resumed their exercises, and Nia settled into a chair nearby, watching them intently. Each movement they made was a testament to their resilience, the embodiment of hope in a life that had once seemed bleak. As they practiced, she couldn't help but admire their spirit. They were the embodiment of innocence, yet they were also the children of a man who lived in a world filled with peril. The door swung open and Alessandro entered, his presence commanding attention. He wore a tailored suit that accentuated his broad shoulders, his hair slicked back, giving him an air of authority. Yet, as he caught sight of the twins, his demeanor softened. It was a sight Nia was beginning to cherish, the Mafia boss, usually cold and distant, transforming into a father filled with pride and affection. "Boys," he said, his voice low and rich, "how's my little warriors doing today?" "Look, Dad, I can walk!" Luca exclaimed, his excitement palpable. Alessandro approached them, kneeling to his son's level. "I'm proud of you both. You're doing amazing," he said, his eyes glistening with emotion that he rarely allowed to surface. Nia's heart fluttered at the sight of Alessandro, a man who had built walls around his heart, now letting them down, even if just a little, for his children. Watching their interaction, Nia felt a strange mix of warmth and ache. There was a part of her that longed for that connection, for the kind of family bond that seemed so effortlessly displayed between Alessandro and his sons. It was a connection she had never fully experienced, her own upbringing marked by struggles and solitude, her parents often preoccupied with their battles against life's challenges. Here, with Alessandro and the twins, she felt a flicker of hope for something more, a family, love, and a sense of belonging. As the therapy session progressed, Nia found herself drawn into the twins' world, helping them with their exercises and cheering them on. Laughter filled the air as they engaged in playful banter, and soon they were all joking about how Marco could outrun his brother once he was fully healed. Alessandro watched from the sidelines, a small smile gracing his lips as he observed the bond between them. "Are you going to join us, or just watch?" Nia teased, glancing back at Alessandro, her playful tone breaking the intensity of the moment. He chuckled softly, a sound she had come to relish. "I might just take notes on how to be a better father," he replied, his eyes sparkling with mischief. Nia's heart raced at his playful banter, a reminder of the many layers to Alessandro that she was beginning to uncover. "Well, you might want to start by showing them some of your moves. They could use a lesson in being cool," she quipped back, earning a laugh from the twins. Alessandro stepped forward, his expression serious yet lighthearted. "All right, boys, how about a little competition? Let's see who can lift the most weights today. Winner gets to choose the movie for our family night." The twins exchanged excited glances, their competitive spirits ignited. Nia felt a rush of emotions as she watched them. This man, this mafia boss, was more than just the figure she had initially feared. He was a father, and in this moment, he was giving them a glimpse of a normal life amidst the chaos. As the session continued, Nia found herself lost in the moment, feeling like a part of something special. Alessandro's gaze would occasionally meet hers, and in those moments, she felt an electric connection, a tension that simmered just beneath the surface. It was a dangerous game they were playing, but she couldn't help but be drawn to him, to the man behind the power and the danger. But the peace they found was soon shattered. Just as the twins were celebrating their small victories, Nia received a message on her phone. It was from one of her colleagues at the hospital, informing her of a situation involving a patient she had been caring for, a man with ties to the very gang that Alessandro was at odds with. Her heart sank at the implications. The world she had stepped into was not only dangerous for Alessandro, but also for her and the twins. "Boys, I need to step out for a moment," she said, her voice steady despite her rising anxiety. "Are you all right?" "I just need to take care of something. I'll be quick," she assured him, though inside her mind raced with worry. She stepped outside, the hallway feeling constricting as she read through the message again. The patient had been attacked, a clear warning from a rival gang. "Stay away from the boss," the message had warned. Nia felt a chill run down her spine. Could they be targeting her now? She took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing heart. This was the world she had stepped into, one filled with danger and unpredictability. She couldn't let fear dictate her actions, not when the twins were depending on her. She had to be strong for them, for Alessandro. When she returned to the therapy room, she was met with the sight of the twins eagerly waiting, their faces lit up with excitement over the prospect of their friendly competition with their father. Nia plastered on a smile, but inside, the unease remained. "Did I miss anything?" she asked, forcing her voice to sound light. "Not yet. Dad is about to show us how strong he is," Marco declared, bouncing on his toes. "All right, boys, let's see what you've got," Alessandro said, rolling up his sleeves, a playful glint in his eyes. Nia watched as the three of them engaged in a playful contest, the room filled with laughter and cheers. It was a moment of normalcy, a brief escape from the chaos that loomed outside. But even as she joined in the festivities, her mind kept drifting back to the message. She could feel the weight of the decision pressing on her. She had to confront Alessandro about the dangers they faced, about the threats his world cast on her and the twins. But the thought terrified her. Would he see her as a liability? Would he push her away to protect them? As the laughter echoed around her, Nia realized she had to speak up, to lay bare her fears before it was too late. But how could she do that when she was so drawn to him? The chemistry between them was palpable, a magnetic force pulling her closer, yet the shadows of their realities loomed large, threatening to tear them apart. "Alessandro," she began, her voice wavering slightly as the twins continued to cheer, "can we talk for a moment?" He paused, sensing the shift in her tone. "Of course. Boys, why don't you take a break?" he instructed, and the twins, sensing the seriousness, nodded and moved to the side. Once they were alone, Naya could see the concern etched on Alessandro's face. "What's wrong?" he asked, his voice low and steady. "I got a message from the hospital," she began, her heart pounding. "One of my patients has been hurt. It's connected to your world. They warned me to stay away from you." Alessandro's expression hardened, a flicker of protectiveness igniting in his eyes. "What do you mean? Who was it?" "A man with ties to a rival gang," she admitted, her resolve faltering slightly. "I need to know what I'm getting into, Alessandro. I can't be a liability, not for you or the boys." He stepped closer, the intensity of his gaze locking onto hers. "Naya, you're not a liability. You're part of our family now. I won't let anything happen to you or the twins." "But how can you guarantee that?" she pressed, searching his eyes for answers. "This isn't just about us anymore. It's about the boys, too." He sighed, running a hand through his hair, and for the first time, she saw a glimpse of vulnerability in him. "I can't promise safety in this life, but I can promise to protect you with everything I have. You mean too much to me." The weight of his words hung in the air, and for a moment, Naya felt a rush of emotion. She wanted to believe him, to trust that he could shield them from the dangers that surrounded them. But the reality was harsh, and the shadows of his world were creeping closer. "Then let me help you," she said, her voice firm. "I want to be a part of this, to support you and the twins, but I need to know what I'm facing." Alessandro's expression softened, a mix of admiration and concern washing over him. "You have no idea what you're asking for," he replied, his voice low. "This life, it's dangerous, and I don't want to drag you into it." "I'm already in it," she insisted, her determination shining through. "I care about you and the boys. I want to be there for you, but I can't do that if I don't understand what we're up against." He hesitated, weighing her words, and then nodded slowly. "All right, but promise me you'll be careful. I don't want to see you hurt." "I promise," she replied, her heart swelling with a mix of fear and hope. They were entering a new chapter, one that would require them to navigate the treacherous waters of his world together. As they returned to the twins, Naya felt a renewed sense of purpose. She was no longer just a nurse. She was a part of their family, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The bond between them was growing stronger, forged in the fires of adversity, and she was determined to protect that bond at all costs. Alessandro watched her with a mix of admiration and concern, realizing that she wasn't just stepping into his world, she was stepping into his heart. As they resumed their playful banter with the twins, the laughter and joy filled the room once more, a temporary escape from the looming dangers that awaited them. But in the back of her mind, Nia knew that the stakes were only going to get higher. She had chosen to embrace this life, and as the shadows encroached, she would have to confront the truth of their world, a truth that would challenge their love and test their resilience in ways they could never have imagined. Nia stood by the hospital window, gazing out at the city skyline as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow across the bustling streets. The events of the past few days played in her mind like a movie reel, each moment more intense than the last. She had willingly stepped into a world that was foreign and dangerous, yet strangely exhilarating. It was a world dominated by Alessandro, the Mafia boss whose presence was as magnetic as it was intimidating. She had felt the weight of his gaze on her, a mix of admiration and concern, and she realized that she was no longer just a nurse tending to patients. She was becoming an integral part of something much larger, a family that was both beautiful and perilous. The laughter of the twins echoed in her ears, a sound that brought her immeasurable joy. Marco and Luca had become her little rays of sunshine, their innocent charm weaving into the fabric of her life. They had faced adversity with a strength that belied their age, and in their eyes she saw a reflection of resilience that inspired her. But as much as she cherished her time with them, a nagging sense of foreboding lingered in the back of her mind. The world Alessandro inhabited was fraught with danger, and she knew that her bond with the twins would inevitably draw her deeper into the shadows surrounding their lives. Just then, the door swung open, and Alessandro stepped in, his presence commanding the room. His dark suit tailored to perfection, he exuded an air of authority that was impossible to ignore. Nia turned to face him, her heart racing as their eyes met. There was a moment of silence, a connection that spoke volumes without uttering a single word. She could see the tension etched on his face, the weight of his responsibilities pressing down on him like a heavy cloak. "Nia," Alessandro said, his voice low and steady, "I need to talk to you." The seriousness of his tone sent a shiver down her spine. She nodded, gesturing for him to take a seat. The twins were busy playing with their toys, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing just outside their door. Nia took a deep breath, steeling herself for whatever was about to unfold. "What's on your mind?" she asked, trying to inject a sense of ease into the atmosphere. Alessandro leaned forward, his dark eyes searching hers. "The rival family. They've been making moves. I don't want you or the boys to get caught in the crossfire." Nia felt a pang of fear. She had heard whispers during her shifts, rumors about escalating tensions, about power struggles that could turn violent. "What do you mean?" she pressed, her voice barely above a whisper. "They're targeting anyone connected to me," he replied, his expression hardening. "And that includes you and the twins." Her heart raced as she processed his words. The danger wasn't just a distant threat, it was looming over them like a dark cloud. "What are you going to do?" she asked, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "I'll handle it," he said, his tone resolute. "But I need you to promise me something. Stay close to the hospital. I can protect you better if I know where you are." Nia's mind swirled with conflicting emotions. She wanted to trust him, to believe that he could shield her from the chaos that threatened to invade her life. But a part of her hesitated. "I can't just hide away, Alessandro. I have a job, a life here." He reached across the table, his hand brushing against hers, igniting a spark that coursed through her veins. "I know, and I admire your strength, but this isn't just about you anymore. It's about the boys, too. I can't lose you." His vulnerability pierced through her resolve, and she found herself torn between the desire to protect her own life and the instinct to safeguard the fragile bond they had forged. "What if I want to help?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "What if I want to be part of this?" Alessandro's gaze softened, a hint of surprise flickering in his eyes. "Naya, this isn't a game. The Mafia isn't a fairy tale. It's dangerous, and I can't let you get hurt." "But I'm already in this," she replied, her heart racing. "I care about the twins. I care about you." His expression shifted, a mixture of admiration and frustration. "You don't understand what you're asking for." "Maybe I do," she insisted, her voice steady. "I've seen the way you are with your sons. I've seen your vulnerability. You're not just a boss. You're a father, and that matters to me." Alessandro's eyes darkened, and for a moment she thought he might pull away. But then he leaned closer, the intensity of his gaze locking onto hers. "You're playing with fire, Nia. If you choose this, there's no turning back." The weight of his words hung in the air, thick with implications. She could feel the tension between them shifting, a palpable energy that crackled with unspoken desires. "I'm willing to take that risk," she declared, her heart pounding in her chest. Before he could respond, the sound of laughter erupted from the twins, breaking the heavy atmosphere. Alessandro's expression softened, and he turned to watch them play, a smile breaking through his serious demeanor. It was in moments like this that Nia realized the depth of his love for his children, a love that mirrored her own growing affection for them. "Do you see how happy they are?" she asked, her voice brightening. "They need you, and I want to help you be the father they deserve." Alessandro's gaze returned to her, a flicker of something deep and unguarded passing between them. "You're extraordinary," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "But this life, it's fraught with danger in ways you can't even begin to imagine." "I'm not afraid of the dark, Alessandro," she replied, her determination unwavering. "I'm afraid of losing the light in my life. And right now, that light is you and the twins." He studied her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then, with a sigh that seemed to carry the weight of the world, he nodded. "Then we'll face it together." Just as the air between them began to thaw, the atmosphere outside shifted. Nia could sense the tightening tension in Alessandro's body as he straightened, his instincts kicking in. He moved like a predator, attuned to the subtle sounds of the world around him. "Stay here," he commanded, his tone leaving no room for argument. Nia's heart raced as she realized the gravity of the situation. She watched as Alessandro stepped toward the door, his demeanor transforming into that of a man on high alert. The playful laughter of the twins faded into the background as a sense of unease settled over the room. "Alessandro, wait," she called after him, but he was already gone, slipping into the shadows of the hallway. Nia felt a rush of anxiety wash over her. She turned to the twins, who were blissfully unaware of the impending danger. "Guys, let's play a game," she said, forcing a smile as she knelt beside them. "How about a treasure hunt?" Their faces lit up with excitement, and for a brief moment she lost herself in their joy. But in the back of her mind, she could feel the impending storm gathering strength. As they searched for hidden treasures in the room, Nia's thoughts were consumed by Alessandro and the choices they had made. She had willingly chosen to step into his world, to embrace the chaos, but now she was faced with the reality of the risks involved. The sound of hurried footsteps reached her ears, and her heart sank. She turned to see Alessandro re-entering the room, his face pale but determined. "We need to leave, now," he said, urgency lacing his voice. "Leave? Where?" Nia asked, her heart racing. The twins paused, confusion etched on their faces. "I'll explain later," Alessandro replied, his tone brokering no debate. "We're not safe here." Nia's mind raced, the implications of his words settling heavily on her shoulders. "But what about my things? I can't just—" "There's no time," he interrupted, his eyes flashing with intensity. "Trust me, Nia, it's not just about you anymore. It's about keeping them safe." The weight of his words sank in, and she felt a rush of fear. "Okay," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos swirling around her. "Let's go." With that, Alessandro ushered the twins to the door, his protective instincts kicking in as he led the way down the hospital corridors. Nia followed closely behind, her heart pounding in her chest. As they emerged into the parking garage, a sense of dread settled over her. The world outside felt different, as if it were on the brink of unraveling. She could see the tension in Alessandro's posture as he scanned the area, his instincts razor-sharp. "Get in the car," he instructed, his voice firm but low. The twins climbed into the back seat, their innocence stark against the backdrop of impending danger. Nia slid into the passenger seat, her eyes locking onto Alessandro as he slid behind the wheel. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "There's been a breach," he replied, his focus on the rearview mirror. "They know about you and the boys. We need to get to safety." Nia's heart raced as she processed his words. The reality of their situation was sinking in, and she felt the weight of her choices pressing down on her. Alessandro, Not now, Nia, he interrupted, his tone sharp. Just trust me. The engine roared to life, and Alessandro pulled out of the parking garage with precision. Nia could feel the tension emanating from him, a storm brewing beneath the surface. She glanced back at the twins, who were huddled together in the back seat, their eyes wide with confusion. Everything's going to be okay, she reassured them, forcing a smile despite her own fears. We're just going on an adventure. But as they drove through the darkened streets, Nia's heart ached for the life she had known. The routine she had built, the friendships she had forged, everything felt like a distant memory. Yet, in that moment, as she glanced at Alessandro, she realized that what she truly wanted was to protect this new family they were forming. They sped through the city, the lights blurring past them like fleeting moments in time. Nia could feel the weight of Alessandro's gaze, a mix of determination and vulnerability that drew her in. She reached out, her hand brushing against his arm, a silent promise that they would face whatever lay ahead together. As they entered a quieter part of town, Alessandro's demeanor shifted, his focus sharpening. We need to lay low for a while, he said, his voice steady. I have a safe house not far from here. Nia nodded, her heart racing as they navigated the unfamiliar streets. The twins remained silent, sensing the tension that hung in the air. Nia could feel the fear bubbling beneath the surface, but she refused to let it consume her. She had chosen to stand by Alessandro's side, and she would do everything in her power to protect the twins and their newfound family. Finally, they arrived at a discreet building tucked away in a quiet neighborhood, far removed from the chaos that had become their reality. Alessandro parked the car, his expression serious. Stay close, he instructed, his protective instincts kicking in once again. Nia took the twins' hands, guiding them toward the entrance as they stepped into the dimly lit space. The atmosphere felt different, still safe, but fraught with the weight of uncertainty. She could sense Alessandro's tension as he scanned the area, his instincts on high alert. Let's get settled, he said, his tone calm but firm. I'll explain everything in a moment. Nia led the twins to a small living area where they could finally breathe away from the chaos. You guys okay? She asked, kneeling beside them, her heart aching for their innocence in the face of danger. Marco nodded, his little hand clutching his brother's tightly. What's happening, Nia? He asked, his voice small. We're just taking a little break, she replied, forcing a smile. Alessandro is keeping us safe. Luca looked up at her, his wide eyes filled with trust. Will we go home soon? He asked. Nia hesitated, her heart heavy with the truth she couldn't yet bear to share. We'll figure it out, I promise, she said, wrapping her arms around them both. The warmth of their small bodies filled her with hope, a reminder of why she was fighting for this life. As she held them, Alessandro entered the room, his expression serious as he took in the scene before him. We need to talk, he said, his voice low and commanding. Nia nodded, her heart racing as she turned to face him. What's going on, Alessandro? What do we need to know? He took a deep breath, his gaze flickering between her and the twins. I've made enemies, he confessed, his voice steady but laced with gravity. And they're not going to stop until they get what they want. What do they want? Nia asked, her heart pounding in her chest. They want to weaken me, to show that I'm vulnerable, he replied, his eyes darkening. And that means targeting anyone close to me. Nia's heart sank as the implications of his words settled in. But why us? She pressed, her voice trembling. Why the twins? They think that by hurting those I love, they can break me, Alessandro explained, his expression hardened with resolve. but they don't understand what we have. Nia felt a surge of determination. "We're stronger together," she declared, her voice steady. "We can face this, Alessandro." He met her gaze with intensity, a flicker of admiration shining through the storm cloud of uncertainty. "You don't know what you're asking for," he said softly. "I know more than you think," she replied, her heart resolute. "I've seen the way you love your sons, the way you fight for them. I want to be part of that fight." Alessandro's expression softened, and for a moment the weight of the world seemed to lift. "You're extraordinary," he said again, his voice filled with warmth. But before they could delve deeper, the sound of footsteps echoed from the hallway, a reminder that they weren't alone. Alessandro's demeanor shifted, his instincts kicking in once again. "Stay here," he instructed, his tone leaving no room for argument. Nia nodded, her heart racing as she watched him move toward the door, his protective instincts on high alert. She turned back to the twins, who were watching with wide eyes filled with confusion. "It's going to be okay, I promise," she reassured them, her voice steady. "We're going to get through this together." As Alessandro stepped into the hallway, Nia's mind raced with the possibilities of what could come next. She had chosen to stand by him, to embrace the danger that came with being intertwined with the Mafia world. But now, as the reality of their situation settled in, she couldn't help but wonder if they were truly ready for the challenges that lay ahead. In that moment, she felt a surge of determination, a commitment to protect the family they had begun to form, one forged in love, resilience, and the promise of a future together. Whatever dangers awaited them, she would face them head-on, for the sake of the twins, for Alessandro, and for the bond that was growing stronger with each passing moment. As the echoes of footsteps faded into the distance, Nia knew that they were about to embark on a journey that would test their limits, challenge their beliefs, and ultimately define their destinies. And no matter what lay ahead, she was ready to fight for the family they had become, because together they were stronger than the shadows that threatened to consume them.